All right. Hey guys, welcome back. Our first session is with James Anderson, who is the founder and CEO of RioDeFi. So if you have been in this space, you must have heard about RioDeFi. They are doing some amazing work. He's going to talk about the different types of tokens and assets and the cryptos that are there in this space and what their uses are. Over to you, James.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Manav, and pleasure to be here with everyone on this Saturday evening. Let me share my screen here. Oops. Just got a preference thing. You need to give permission here. 1 second. Okay, well, screen sharing isn't quite working, but that's okay. So I can kind of go just a brief overview of RioDeFi, who we are, and then I'll dive right into the different types of tokens and assets and various cryptocurrencies. So RioDeFi is a blockchain technology company whose mission is to accelerate the mass adoption of digital assets by bridging the gap between traditional and decentralized finance. So we feel that in order to take blockchain to the next level, it needs an upgrade. And Rio Chain is a technology that allows for more scalability, faster speeds, and interoperability between different blockchains. But beyond just connecting blockchains to each other, we're also seeking to connect blockchains to banking and to traditional financial systems, creating that bridge to help people more easily get in and out of cryptocurrencies. That way they can use them in the real world and also earn savings through cryptocurrency, through things like liquidity mining, yield farming, these sort of new DeFi products that enable the average person to get more out of their money by earning returns between 5 to 10%, up to even like 20% plus, depending on the types of protocols that you use. So this opens up a whole new opportunity, especially when blockchain connects to those fiat payment rails. For instance, with merchants, through debit cards, things like this. It's going to enable the space to grow tremendously. And I think we've seen this year in 2020 with Bitcoin starting the year around $3,500, and now it's nearly $20,000, so almost hitting the all-time highs. So this is very, very exciting. And you're seeing Ethereum now, hitting above $600. I think right around $500 now, but the space I think is heating up again. It does have some similarities to 2017 for those of you who have been in cryptocurrency for quite a while, but I think it's much more mature this time around because there are more institutions coming into the space. We saw recent news with DBS Bank having the ability to do cryptocurrency custody, the fiat clearance, as well as a securities exchange. And so I think you're seeing more institutions, more traditional players coming into this space, which brings a level of credibility and trust that wasn't there maybe as much in 2017. So with Rio Chain, we're working with these various financial institutions. We actually are very focused on the Indian markets as well. We recently announced our partnership with a company called Vault, which enables fiat bank transfers in India from Indian rupiah to Bitcoin, Ethereum, USDT, etc., as well as to Rio Chain's native token, which is Rio Fuel. And so we're currently working on the integration with that system, which we hope to have up within a few months, in order to enable people to not only purchase cryptocurrencies for the first time, but also to have access to things like savings and lending down the road as well. And regarding the different types of cryptocurrencies, so you have your coins like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the tokens, for instance. When you're looking at a blockchain like Ethereum, you have this standard called ERC20. And this is a standard for tokens that enables many different companies to have one set of technologies that enables these tokens to be more easily integrated on various cryptocurrency exchanges, It allows for transferability and integrations with many different types of wallets, including MetaMask and these Web3 based wallets. My Ether wallet is one. So RioFuel is a token that's currently on Ethereum. It's an ERC20 token. But we are also moving onto the mainnet of RioChain, which we have our own token standard called the RST88 standard. So this is Rio Standard Token 88. And so, with these types of cryptocurrencies, it enables various different projects to have things like the ability to generate yields, right? And so with this token standard, this ERC20 standard, you can have access to things like decentralized exchanges. So Uniswap is one of the leading decentralized exchanges. And what it's been able to do over the past year has been quite tremendous. So now with DeFi, you're seeing many more assets locked into DeFi protocols, including on decentralized exchanges, with the total value locked having gone from, I think at the beginning of the year, it was around 1 billion, and now it's over $13 billion of assets locked in various DeFi protocols. And so what this enables is for people to, for instance, provide liquidity by putting a pairing on a decentralized exchange. So for instance, you could put USD, or let's go with the example of RioFuel. You could put our fuel and Ether into a pair on Uniswap, and you can earn a percentage of all trading fees from people who trade that pairing on the platform. And so over time, this can actually generate yields that are quite high. In fact, with, for instance, the USDT ETH pair, users can actually get around 25% APR, if based on the current trade volume anyway. So these kinds of opportunities are enabling more people to gain access to savings rates that were traditionally only accessible to the people doing the lending themselves or to doing the liquidity provision themselves, and that would be the banks. So what this is doing is really democratizing access to wealth. And so I think it's quite an exciting time to be in blockchain and cryptocurrencies. And regarding the different types of assets that cryptocurrencies can enable, you're seeing now things like the tokenization of real estate, for instance. A number of projects are coming out, and soon there will be one that's going to be announcing collaboration with RioChain. And we're very excited about these kinds of projects because the tokenization of real-world assets is another leap forward in blockchain. I think you'll see, with this, you can have, instead of having to purchase a whole house or a whole condo or a resort, you can just purchase 1/1000th of a unit, for instance, and you can have access to things like revenues, the yields from rentals, for instance. You can also gain access to the capital price appreciation of the underlying real estate asset. And so these kinds of things are going to spread not just to real estate, but the tokenization of all different types of assets. It could be cars, it could be art, it could be even things like the NFTs that are out now. So that's another sort of type of token. So with Ethereum, they have I believe it's ERC 721, this NFT token standard. And so it enables people then to trade these digital collectibles that are scarce. So there's a limited number of each that are minted, and they can be traded on platforms like Rarible or OpenSea. And some of these collectibles actually carry with them yields as well. So one of our dApps that's building on, and a dApp is a decentralized application, one of the dApps building on RioChain is called MantraDAO, and they're a dApp for savings, lending, and governance. With that application, they've recently created a commemorative NFT to celebrate the fact that they have over 100 million of their native platform token, which is called the Om token, based on sort of Hindu spirituality. The Om being one of the primary mantras. And so MantraDAO had this inspiration because it's essentially about creating financial peace of mind. If you can have your assets working for you, generating money while you're sleeping, this gives you the better ability to be able to control your financial future and to provide for your family and have a good life, right? So we think that mantras such as the Om, being one of the primary mantras, are very important to having a good life, right? And so to celebrate the event of having over 100 million of their native token on their platform, they created these NFTs, these non-fungible tokens that actually generate yield. So if you stake the NFT, actually it just needs to be in your wallet. You can receive special airdrops of other cryptocurrency tokens, including their own token. So this is a way to generate yields over time through a collectible. So there are all sorts of new opportunities emerging in cryptocurrency, and it's quite exciting to see the evolution of decentralized finance over this past year, because really during this summer, a number of new yield farming protocols took off. You saw things like SushiSwap emerge, which was a competitor to Uniswap that had a native governance token called Sushi. So this token could potentially give access to more revenue in the future, as well as for those people providing liquidity on the SushiSwap exchange, they actually receive this governance token, which they could either hold for hopes of future price appreciation, or they could actually sell it into the market to generate higher yields. So this is what's called liquidity mining. And the same thing was happening with Uniswap. They actually launched, in response to SushiSwap, they launched their own Uni token, the UNI. And this was a governance token that was given for people who were providing liquidity on certain pairings. And so, these kind of emergent opportunities are, one of the things that keeps me really excited about cryptocurrency and decentralized finance. There's always some sort of new technology emerging that is, innovating what traditional finance, has been doing. But mostly with traditional finance, this was something that was limited to banking institutions who were able to create, complex financial products and derivatives and things like this that were only available to institutional investors. Now you have things that the everyday person can access just by having a cryptocurrency wallet installed. And so, these different types of tokens and cryptocurrency assets are really going to change the world, I think, over the next few years. So they already have had an impact, obviously, especially in countries, for instance, that have capital controls, being able to move your money more fluidly with, some censorship resistance through cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin. This enables more financial freedom. So I want to also have some time for questions as well. So does anyone have a question on decentralized finance or liquidity mining, yield farming, anything like that they would like to have me answer?
Guys, for any questions, you can write in the chat box or in the questions panel, or you can raise your hand and I can bring you on screen and you can ask your question. So while everybody is thinking about it, why don't you explain, yield farming is something, James, that is coming across a lot, and, it's something that we all are looking at, and that's kind of, picking up pace and everything. So how does it, go about what it is, and just giving out a brief and what results are coming out and how the industry is looking at it? We'd like to really understand from your perspective.
Sure. So yield farming is essentially referring to this concept where you can generate a yield, especially through things like liquidity provision. So again, this is where you would stake generally two different types of assets onto a decentralized exchange in order to allow people to trade that pairing. And with some of these protocols, they actually have their own token. Usually it's a governance token that for the people that provide liquidity early on to that pairing or to other pairings on the platform, you can actually get their governance token for free by providing liquidity. And this token can then be sold on the decentralized exchange itself. So for some various protocols, you can actually earn, at the beginning at least, over 1,000% APY. Now, that is highly dependent upon the future price of, or the current price, as well as of the future price potentially of that token. Now, it does have some risk associated with it. There are more secure versions of yield farming, such as on more established protocols like, at this point, SushiSwap, I think, is pretty established, as well as Yearn Finance is a good one. And also the Curve Finance is really good. So for Curve Finance, it's just stablecoin pairings. And so this provides the ability to not have to deal with the thing called impermanent loss. And basically what impermanent loss is the fact that if you trade a certain pairing, or if you provide liquidity for a certain pairing, and then let's say there's this governance token and you're trading the governance token and then ETH. So ETH, has more of, it's still volatile, but maybe it's probably going to be worth something tomorrow. Whereas some of these other new governance tokens might actually lose all their value and go down to zero. And so then, you might have this issue where if you're holding on to a lot of that token, and if you have ETH here, you could actually lose some of your ETH. And so that's, pretty risky to do that. But, with a platform like Curve Finance, you can actually do just stable coins. So like USDT and USDC, and you can earn a pretty good yield. Now, I see a question from Abe Sapru, and he says, I always had one doubt, are DAO and DeFi the same, as people often use them interchangeably? So that's a great question. So DAOs are decentralized autonomous organizations. And so DAOs oftentimes are interacting with DeFi, so decentralized finance, but they're sort of the companies of the future, you could say. So these decentralized autonomous organizations are generally managed via the governance token of their platform. So for MantraDAO, the one that I mentioned before, their OHM token is a governance token. And so you can actually earn yields on it by staking the OHM token. So this gives you, currently they have an 88% interest rate. Soon that will be changing down to 20% as a target rate. But for now, you have this high interest rate that you can earn. So basically by purchasing the OHM token, you can then stake it to earn more of it. And then you have more of a voice in the community. So you can do things like voting on the future direction of the platform. You can actually, with MantraDAO, you can get a karma score. This is similar to a credit score. It's something that's coming in the future. And it enables you to earn better interest rates, to get better interest, like lower interest when you want to take out a loan on their future lending platform. And so, DAOs are these decentralized autonomous organizations that usually interact with DeFi. So it's sort of two different things, but they're within the same ecosystem, you could say. Now, to get a little bit more into, while we wait for the next question, oh, here we go. So Ajay says, can you please elaborate more on your collaboration with Vault and how it will enable mass adoption? Great question. So what we're doing is integrating the Vault technology with Rio Wallet. So we have our own cryptocurrency wallet that enables the storage of our fuel, the OHM token, but also will enable the storage of RioChain assets. So with RioChain, we have this thing called the generic asset bridge. And this enables you to move cryptocurrencies from other blockchains onto RioChain. And then you can interact with RioChain applications, and you can also withdraw those assets back onto their native chain. So this is similar to the process with wrapped Bitcoin, for instance, on Ethereum. People take Bitcoin, they freeze it onto the Ethereum blockchain, and through a custodial process, and then wrapped Bitcoin is created. So similarly on RioChain, you can freeze assets of other blockchains like Ethereum, like USDT, like Bitcoin, bring them onto RioChain, interact with applications. In the future, we'll have a lot of staking and DeFi protocols like these pools where you can earn high interest rates. And then you can withdraw them back onto their native blockchain. And also in the future with Rio Wallet, we'll just have a native Bitcoin wallet as well. So you can just hold Bitcoin on the Bitcoin blockchain, Ethereum on the Ethereum blockchain, et cetera. So we're integrating Vault into Rio Wallet to enable people in India, especially, to get access to purchase cryptocurrency for the first time. So it'll enable bank transfers so that you can get Bitcoin or Ethereum or USDT using Indian rupee. So this is one of the features of Vault. Another feature is having savings and lending. So you could actually take out a loan using your Bitcoin or your Ethereum as collateral. I think Ethereum as well, but we'll start with just Bitcoin as collateral, and then be able to take out a loan against that in a stable coin. So that is a future integration with Vault as well. So we've been very impressed with their technology, and they have close relationships already with Indian banks. So this will enable smooth fiat on-ramps in India, which we're super excited about, because we think India, as Manav said earlier, it has had this blooming of cryptocurrencies and DeFi since the Supreme Court had the overturning of the anti-cryptocurrency legislation. So we're very excited about the future of cryptocurrencies in India, and we think it's definitely going to be a big thing over the next decade. So Vlada Street says, why should developers build on Rio chain? Are there any special conditions rather than building on other chains? And which projects from which spheres could be built on Rio chain? Great question. So developers should build on Rio chain for a few different reasons. One, it's highly scalable. So with Ethereum right now, it might change with proof of stake, but the current state of Ethereum is that it can only process about 17 transactions per second. Now, this is not sufficient for global payments. So you have payment processors like Visa and MasterCard, which can do up to 50,000 transactions per second. Of course, they're very centralized, so that's the trade-off, right? Centralization versus decentralization, but you have scalability versus not much scalability. So with Rio chain, we actually have up to 3,000 transactions per second currently, and in the future, we're hoping over the next few years, we can increase that to over 100,000 transactions per second, which would make it so that it's competitive for the global financial space. And another factor is that our block time is very fast. So we have a 2-second block time, so transactions can confirm within 2 seconds. And the gas fees are very low. So with Ethereum right now, for a lot of these things that I've mentioned on the course of this presentation, you have these yield farming, you have staking, all these things require gas. That's Ethereum. They require Ether, which is the cryptocurrency token for the Ethereum blockchain. These gas fees can be quite expensive, sometimes $5 to $10 if the smart contract is complex. And so with Rio chain, the gas fees are much lower. So they cost 0.1 R fuel for basic transactions. And based on the current price of R fuel, that means that the transaction fee for basic transfers is less than a penny, regardless of the amount that you want to transfer. And then for smart contracts, the gas fees are also quite low. So you're talking just pennies, even for complex things. So that's another reason. A third reason is that it's interoperable with other blockchains. So, if you want to have access to DeFi protocols across chains, so if you want to interact with the Polkadot network, as well as the Ethereum network, as well as Bitcoin, this is something that Rio chain is enabling through our generic asset bridge, and also through future developments, which will include more decentralized versions of that. And then which projects from which spheres can be built on Rio chain? So, many different types of project can be built on Rio chain. Certainly, the ones that make the most sense, especially at the beginning, are financial applications. So, that's why we built Rio Wallet. We're building Rio Pay, which is going to enable merchant payments using cryptocurrency, and the merchant gets to receive fiat currencies. And then, so that makes sense. There's also gaming applications being built on Rio chain, so predictive markets, things that can, blockchain-based games, since you can have more access to microtransactions. Whereas if you build a game on iOS or using the Apple Store, if you have in-game purchases, Apple takes 30% of those transaction fees. And so with Rio chain, our transaction fees are much lower. So blockchains, we think, will be a big component of mobile gaming in the future because of this ability to be able to take in money very efficiently and pass that money directly to the people that develop the game developers, rather than these large corporations. So we think this is a huge area of growth over the next few years for blockchain as well. So Ajay has a follow-up question. Can my loan be collateralized in the future? Yes, so the loans can be collateralized with Bitcoin, and in the future we'll have also Ethereum and eventually our fuel as well. So being able to use these assets to take out a loan in a stable coin that you can then convert into cash to use for spending. So this is a way to leverage your blockchain assets. And I mentioned before about the tokenization of real world assets as well. So real estate being one of them. So if you can, for instance, buy a piece of real estate and then you can leverage that by taking out a loan against the real estate asset, that's quite powerful, because then you can just take something that usually has low liquidity, like an apartment like this, it's like, oh, I mean, I don't own this, I'm renting it. But, if you have ownership of an apartment, let's say, if you can turn that into 1,000 pieces and then, sell out those various pieces, and then, collect from the rentals. And then if you can actually, let's say you own this asset and it's worth, I don't know, $1,000. So if you could take out a loan of like, say $500, just half the value of the real estate, that's great. You can use that to buy things in the real world. You could use that to get more cryptocurrencies, depending on what your risk tolerance is. There are a lot of different options. And so we think this is something that's going to lead, again, to more growth in the future, both for cryptocurrencies and also in traditional markets. Having more access to liquidity is generally a good thing. So Shine Paramel says, hello, could you give some of the real estates that are currently running on RioDeFi? So I cannot, because we have not publicly announced that yet, but there is a project that will be announcing their partnership with RioDeFi very soon. So we're excited about that. But basically, yeah, some of those things I talked about, they will have.
Perfect. Anyone else have any questions for James regarding crypto, different types of assets, about, their use case, anything about RioDeFi itself? Nothing? James, I have, okay, do you have a question? Slides to this talk you can share because of the problem with this. Yes. Yeah, James, you can share it with me so I can share it with everyone after this.
Okay, yeah, sure. I'll connect with you on Telegram and then send over the presentation as a follow-up.
Perfect. We'll do that. And we'll mail you the presentation of all both the talks so you guys can have a look at it. Thank you. So, James, the question that I had was that, there are so many tokens and cryptos that, coming out. Like, we have utility tokens, we have stable coins, we have, some other token. So how, as a person, when you're looking at, what project, so how do you go about, deciding about what use case and what type of tokens can be there? So, for the people who are new getting into this industry, so what should be their mindset of, understanding which token they should be going about, or what should be their driving phase, to understand if they should be going in after a utility one or a crypto or a, store of value? How can they go about it? Can you shed some light on that?
Sure. So I think when it comes to this, it's always important to do a lot of due diligence. So to research the tokens you might want to purchase ahead of time. I actually used to run a business called Blockchain Investor, where I taught people about how to purchase different cryptocurrencies, how to store those cryptocurrencies securely using things like hardware wallets, such as a ledger or a Trezor device. Being able to make sure that you back up your private keys very securely, and best practices for doing that, which exchanges to trade on, these kinds of things. So when it comes to evaluating different cryptocurrencies, the first thing I always look at is the team. Do you trust these people? Do they seem like genuine people? Because you could have the best idea in the world, but if that idea is run by people that are, not trustworthy, like, it might just be a vision and a hope and a wish and a prayer, but, they might not ever actually build the thing, right? And that would be bad. And that's how losses can happen, right? The people might just stop working, run away, go chill on the beach, right? You don't want that. So do you trust the people? Are they real? Can you see them? Like, are they going on calls like this, on video, putting their face out there, putting their name out there? Are they on LinkedIn? Can you access their profile? Do they actually have friends? This kind of thing, because that's very important. So first and foremost, I always look at the team. Secondly, does the idea make sense? Do you understand the idea? I personally, don't put my money into things that I don't at least understand the basic concept of, or understand where the value can be made in those things. So, does this seem like something the world needs, right? Is it going to be providing value? What value is it providing? Now, certain coins can be great to get in, make a quick buck, and then, sell them and you don't, move on, right? There's different types of people in the cryptocurrency space. Some people are more traders. Some people are more, the buy and hold type. I tend to be more of the buy and hold type. I find something that I really think has a lot of value. I purchase it in the early phases, sometimes even at later phases, actually, if I think that it's undervalued based on so I use what's called fundamental analysis. So there's two sort of things, technical analysis and fundamental analysis. Now, technical analysis, both are very important, but technical analysis is looking at the charts and the graphs and seeing where the trend lines are. And so there's a whole sort of methodology for that. But I use fundamental analysis, and this is basically looking at what is the real business behind this thing? What is the value underlying this project? What is the team ultimately trying to do, and where do they get their revenues? How does that value flow back to the token itself? So with something like Bitcoin, the value proposition is that it's scarce, it's censorship resistant, it has a very strong decentralized network of nodes spread all around the world, and it has this ability to act as kind of like a digital gold. So it has a value that appreciates over time, because as various fiat currencies, for instance, like the US dollar, get printed in mass, things like Bitcoin, which have a scarce supply of 21 million, and actually that supply shrinks. It's slowly growing because of mining of Bitcoin, but it's shrinking because people lose Bitcoin all the time. So they lose access to their private keys, or they, whatever the case might be. So you actually have a shrinking supply of Bitcoin in the long run. And, things like, because it has this decentralized network, and because you can send it across the world any amount that you want, of course, you have to have the Bitcoin first. But if you have like $1 million worth of Bitcoin, let's say, you can send that to your friend, or to buy a house, or to whatever. You can send that across the world almost instantly. It's within 10 minutes. With very low fees, and no one's asking you a question on the other end. So looking at these various cryptocurrencies, I would say if you're new to the space and you're looking to purchase cryptocurrencies, of course I would say, and this is not financial advice, it's not investment advice, but for me personally, I like to own some Bitcoin. It's very has a lot of room yet to grow. I think Bitcoin could be over $200,000 over the next 5 years, let's say, might even be much faster. So that has a lot of room to grow still, over 10 times, I think. Who knows? I can't predict the future, but that's a good one to own, I would say. Another one is Ethereum. It's the backbone of decentralized finance, and it's a utility token. It has these gas features. So anyone using the Ethereum blockchain, anyone buying ERC20 tokens requires Ether in order to send them. So that's a fundamental value underlying Ether. And of course, I'm going to say my own token, RioFuel, RFuel. So it's for RioChain. I think it's a great buy right now. It's very undervalued, I would say, compared to where we see this ecosystem going. It's very early. We just launched our token publicly back in September. So September 28th was when we launched that. And so right now it's around, I think, 4 cents. So, the market cap is like somewhere around 4.5 million. So, I think, or actually it's higher than that, the market cap. But anyway, it has a lot of room to grow, I think, based on what we have coming in the future. So that's one you can take a look at. And I would say, take a look at all the speakers here on the call today at this event. There are a lot of great projects. So check them out. look into their tokens and see if you believe in their ecosystem and believe in the people that are speaking. I think that's a great way to go about it. So Comlesh says, "Hi James, is there a RioDeFi protocol level anonymizing layer for transactions to enable sending private transactions for certain third-party financed apps?" So currently there is not. It is not something that we have in the roadmap soon either. Part of that is because since we're bridging traditional finance with DeFi, the anonymity aspect can actually bring a lot of maybe negative attention from regulators, financial regulators. So our transactions are what's called pseudonymous. So this is similar to Bitcoin. So you don't know who owns the wallets. The wallets are decentralized, so you don't know those identities, but you can see all the transaction history data on chain. So that's similar to how Bitcoin works. It's similar to how Ethereum works. But yeah, in terms of privacy coins, there's potentially a lot of value in those. So you have coins like Dash, Monero, Zcash, these kinds of projects. They definitely seem quite interesting. And certainly with someone like something like Monero or Dash, they've been around for quite a long time and have a pretty solid record in terms of having a value that is kind of tracks with the overall cryptocurrency market. So I think those projects will continue for a long time to come. Okay, Entrepreneurial Learning says, James, could you maybe share your thoughts about how the dynamics of DeFi and RioChain engages with art as an investable asset? So currently we do not have art on RioChain, but actually in 2021, we're looking to incorporate various pieces of art. So we're personally, we're starting with digital art. So digital collectibles, these NFTs that I mentioned earlier, non-fungible tokens. So with these, an artist can create some sort of, scarce good, let's say a digital drawing or a painting or something like this, and then they can attach value to it, such as like potentially a revenue stream, whether it be through special airdrops or maybe, in the future, I definitely see things that are things where an artist could say, look, if you own this token, then you can call me for 1 hour, once a week or something to have a chat, something like this. I mean, these models haven't really emerged so much yet, but I think they will in the future, where these digital collectibles entitle you to certain benefits. Maybe they give you access to a private group or something like this to interface with those artists. There's also, there are other projects out there though that are tokenizing fine art. So I'm blanking on the names right now, but if you search tokenized art, you can definitely find some good companies out there who are working on that. So Nitin Jain says, is there any risk factor in DeFi? Yeah, absolutely. A great question. There are a lot of risk factors in DeFi. So one thing is it's quite early. So DeFi protocols have technological risk. One thing is with the smart contracts. So smart contracts, for those that don't know, it's these programmable pieces of logic. So it's if-then statement. So if X happens, then do Y. So you can automate certain things, and with this automation comes a level of risk, right? Because the code will do what it's told to do. And if there's a bug or if there was something missed, some hacker might take advantage of that. They might exploit the code to have a siphoning off of value from the protocol, for instance. So recently in DeFi, there have been a number of these flash loan attacks. And what a flash loan is, it's a loan that basically initiates and then cancels itself within, or not cancels itself, but it redeems the loan within one single transaction. So with a smart contract, it would take out a loan at the beginning, and then by the end of the smart contract, it would actually close out the loan. But because of this, these flash loans enable certain hackers to have access to large amounts of capital to exploit weaknesses or bugs or threats in certain code. So this is why I think it's important to get audits done. So you can have security audits done by various blockchain firms. For RioDeFi, we actually got 2 different security audits, actually sort of 3 if you include, we got an audit of our code, of our core runtime modules, of RioChain. We also had a penetration test of Rio Wallet, both the web and mobile versions. And then we also had a smart contract audit done for the ERC20 version of our token, RFuel. So CertiK was the one that did the security audit and the penetration testing of RioChain. And then Slowmist did the smart contract audit of RFuel. And so we think, these are 2 of the leading blockchain security firms, and it's very important that these be done. Otherwise, you can have a lot of risk. So there's tons of risks. So I think I'm running out of time. I don't have time to get into everything, but with high risk, sometimes you can have high rewards. So.
All right. Thank you, James. That was lovely talk. Some really good points and explanation that you had. If you have any more questions, we'll request James to stay back, and you can connect with him over a chat, and he can answer those questions for you. All right. Thank you, guys. We'll be starting with the second session. Thank you, James, for enlightening us with your knowledge.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Manav, and take care.
You too.